Okay, moving along to do some review questions on the materials from the first 3 videos, which again covered incitement, fighting words, and obscenity. Just to make sure that we're clear on how to approach each one of those questions. If you would, these questions are posted on the Canvas page under week 10. That say something like review questions before video 5. So before I run through this, please make sure that you have accessed that, looked at those questions, there goes Lainey, and answered them as best you can. If you haven't already done that, please click pause and do that, and then come on back. Okay, so let's look at number 1. Teacher told a classroom full of 2nd grade students, quote, "If the administration doesn't give us teachers a raise next week, then you and I are going to cancel class, go outside, and throw stones at passing cars. Shatter some windshields and get some attention for this issue." The students in the classroom roared their approval. Teacher has been arrested for incitement. Is the arrest valid? Your answer choices are A, yes, because the students approved and were likely to go along with teacher's plan. B, no, because throwing stones at traffic is not unlawful activity. C, yes, because a teacher stands in loco parentis and is responsible for the behaviors of students in his or her care. Or D, no, because no unlawful conduct was imminent under these facts. So first, what are the elements of incitement, right? You have to look at the setup here and the call to question. Call to question is the arrest valid? And the sentence immediately preceding that tells you that the teacher was arrested for incitement. So keep your focus on that, right? If that's what the teacher was arrested for, then the question is obviously whether this was incitement. So the elements of incitement must be advocacy. Do we have that? Arguably we do, right? You and I are going to cancel class, go outside, and throw stones at passing cars. Well, advocacy means to ask, right, or encourage somebody to do something. Sounds like under that right definition that's probably met. How about lawlessness? Well, you have one choice here that says that throwing stones at traffic is not unlawful activity. Remember the advice to always stay out of left field, right? That is very unlikely to be the case. So it probably is lawless activity. I'm skipping ahead here to the last element. Are the students likely to do it? Well, yeah. I mean, they're 2nd graders, right? It's one thing to tell a classroom full of adult law students to do something, or ask a group like that to do something. Quite another to ask a group of 2nd graders, right, to go throw stones at traffic. They're likely to do it. So what's the problem here? The problem here is one of the problems we had in Brandenburg, which is there's no imminence. Look at the if, right? Watch out for this. Questions in law school are often track, right, what is going on in the actual cases that you read. And in the actual case you read, what the Speaker of Brandenburg said, if the President, the Supreme Court, and Congress continues to oppress white people, then something might have to happen. This fact pattern tracks that, right? It says, if the administration doesn't give us a raise next week, then this is what's going to happen. Well, that condition precedent, right, on the unlawful activity defeats the element of imminence. So remember the definition. Imminent means right now without delay. A may be somewhat accurate, right, because maybe the students would go, but you remember that's only one element, right? So if any element is defeated, the answer is no, not yes. B, again, is in left field. That's pretty crazy. C is one of those layperson answers that sounds good that has absolutely nothing to do with incitement. So again, don't ever fall for an answer like that. If the question is about incitement, stick to the elements of incitement. And finally, D is correct, right? Under these facts, there is no imminent unlawful activity, and therefore this was not incitement and the arrest is not valid. So the best answer for 1 is D. Number 2, Speaker stood in front of an audience of 25 people and said, quote, "You are the most evil, ignorant, manipulable group of toothless morons I've ever addressed, given the way you voted in the last election." An audience member then approached Speaker and punched Speaker in the nose. Speaker has been arrested under a local fighting words ordinance for inviting a breach of the peace. Is the arrest valid? And I'm sorry to say that my neighbor has a contractor working on their house today, so you're going to hear Lainey objecting to this vociferously throughout. Okay, the possible answer is A, no, because the speech was political and not addressed to an individual or individuals with the intent to start a fight. B, yes, because any words reasonably likely to offend someone constitute fighting words under the First Amendment. C, no, because the Supreme Court has held that fighting words constitute protected speech under the First Amendment. Or D, yes, because the words toothless morons would have provoked a reasonable person to violence. Lainey, let's see if we can put an end to this. Come on. Okay, very good, very good. All right. So let's, again, now look, again, the setup here is the speaker was arrested for fighting words, right? So that's the question, right? So I mentioned in the fighting words video that you can conceptualize fighting words as basically being elemental or having elements, right? First of all, it has to be directed to an individual or individuals. You have to be in somebody's face. Second of all, the words have to be spoken. They really have to be kind of meaningless words that are spoken with merely the intent to cause a fight. And you also have to watch out that the words lack, and this is related to the last point, the words lack meaning, right? Particularly any meaning as to politics, religion, philosophy, something like that. When you look at this fact pattern, I hope that the problem jumps out at you. So how about A? The speech was political and not addressed to an individual or individuals with the intent to start a fight. That's a pretty good answer because there is no indication here that the speaker actually wanted to start a fight. And you really have to watch out here because this reference to given the way you voted in the last election, right? You got to think through this stuff. Given the way you voted in the last election, that's political. So A is a pretty good answer. B, yes, because any words reasonably likely to offend someone constitute fighting words. That is not the rule, right? That is a misstatement of law and cannot be the right answer. C, no, because the Supreme Court has held that fighting words constitute protected speech. No, it has not. There's another misstatement of law, right? So that cannot be the right answer. The Supreme Court has said fighting words is not protected speech. But you have to make sure it is fighting words, right, for it not to be protected speech. Or D, yes, because the words toothless morons would have provoked a reasonable person to violence. First of all, factually and common sense wise, I'm not sure that those words would provoke somebody, a reasonable person, to violence. But second of all, again, that is not the test, right? Whether a reasonable person would be provoked is not the test for fighting words. The test for fighting words is, are you in somebody's face using words that have no meaning with the intent to start a fight, right? Where you're not talking about politics, religion, philosophy, or anything like that. That's fighting words. D is not what fighting words is. So D is wrong as well, and the best answer, it turns out, is A. Finally, before we get back to substantive material here, and more on that in a minute. Number 3, store owner sells books depicting the remains of people who have been killed in wars. The photographic depictions are graphic and extremely troubling. The local prosecutor instructed store owner to cease and desist from selling, quote, this patently obscene material, which may be viewed store owner's store by children or otherwise, or others who are not prepared to view such material, unquote. Store owner refused and has been arrested for distributing obscene material. Is the arrest valid? A, yes, because protecting children is a compelling interest. B, no, because the means are not substantially related to an important interest. C, no, because the material at issue was not sexually explicit. Or D, yes, because store owner was given notice of violation and refused to comply with a lawful order. Once again, look at the setup and the call to question. What was store owner arrested for? For distributing obscene material. That means that this is an obscenity question, right? And you have to know the Miller test, right? All of it, A, B, and C. Not all of it is going to be an issue in one short multiple choice question, but you need to be aware of all of the elements. Now, as pretty much a threshold matter, as I mentioned in the obscenity video, if material is not sexual in nature, then it's not obscene. It doesn't matter how disgusting, off-putting, offensive, troubling, graphic it is, if it has nothing to do with sex. So, how about A? Yes, because protecting children is a compelling governmental interest. Well, you're being asked whether this is obscene, right? Whether there was a compelling interest has nothing to do with whether it's obscene. You're that's sort of luring you into some kind of discussion here of standards of review that don't apply when you're simply talking about whether material is obscene, and therefore whether it's protected or it's not protected speech. B, the same thing. That's an intermediate scrutiny thing. You'd have to look at that and say, I don't know what that's doing here, but that does not address the question of whether this was obscene material. C is correct. This is not sexually explicit material, and that is one of the elements under the Miller test, that the material must depict sexual activity. That is patently offensive. It has to be sexual. D, yes, because store owner was given notice of violation and refused to comply with a lawful order. There you go. That's one of these red herring type answers designed to lead you off path. That has nothing to do with whether the material is obscene. And besides that, an order from a local prosecutor to remove material from a store that's not obscene would not be a lawful order. We have a First Amendment. So local prosecutors and local governmental officials, don't have the authority to tell you not to distribute material that is constitutionally protected. So D is a bad answer. So the best answer for 3 is C. To review, number 1 is D, number 2 is A, and number 3 is C. Okay, now, from here on out, we got to cover, still in the week 10 material, we're just getting through this a little bit at a time. We still got to cover time, place, manner, and symbolic speech, and I also want to cover Cohen versus California, the F the draft case. Those I'm going to address using Canvas Studio rather than making YouTube videos, because I want to get those into a longer video than 15 minutes. I'm finding, although I like the YouTube approach here, it is not the most efficient because it requires setup, and it requires that I run this through editing software, and then it takes a while to get posted on YouTube. And that's even after the editing software has converted it to an MP4, right? Oh, blah, 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 blah. So I want to get through the remaining material, or most of it, the remaining material this week. And I'll be posting that on Canvas, right? That'll be as video 6 to get through that material. And then we'll come back to YouTube for some more review, going over what quick application exercise and your retrieval stuff that's still posted and available. Obviously we're not going to have any competitions, but you want to fill those out, and we'll still go over what ought to be in those blanks. So that's it for this video, and I will be back hopefully pretty soon here with yet another video, this time covering most of the remaining material for week 10, so that we can start week 11 material before Friday, and you'll have that. One more note, on Friday, right now my plan is to have about a 1 hour availability, to discuss the material that we're going to be covering in week 11, and we'll do that through WebEx if we can make that work. I think we can. So just stay tuned for updates. Like I said in the announcement, we'll get through this one way or another. But that's it for this video. Stay tuned for video 6.